Welcome to Speculative Soapbox, where you hear the pitch straight from the author's mouth.
Welcome to another episode of the Speculative Soapbox. This week we have with us Todd Gallowglas. He's going to talk about his novels. Todd, thank you so much for being on.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So please give us a pitch of your most recent novel. What's the mini synopsis? Why should the readers care?
My most recent project is the first installment of my serialized novel Deadweight. I'm finishing up work on the second and third installments right now. It's a story about the United States going to war against the ancient Faerie of Ireland. I call it my near-future dark urban fantasy noir war thriller. It's ties in sort of war thriller with Irish mythology, epic fantasy, and just because I don't like to be pigeonholed into any one thing. I think people should read it because it's a heck of a fun ride. Early readers have raved about it on Amazon and Goodreads, and they have a really good time with it.
Very cool. How'd that book come about? I mean, there's so many genres you have mixed in there.
So, when I was going to San Francisco State University, and at the time I was living in the Sacramento area, and my wife let me go there for their creative writing degree as opposed to stick around in the Sacramento, because if I went to San Francisco for school, I had to be home every night. And in one of my first semesters there, one of the classes, I had to read The Things They Carried by Tim O'Brien as a short story about the Vietnam War. And in it, it talks about all the different things that the soldiers have to carry, but not just that, but the environment and the stuff they have to go through. It all weighs down on them, and they are carrying all this stuff. And the initial question popped into my mind is what would a platoon of Marines have to carry with them if they went on into a seek and destroy mission in Faerie? And so I kind of worked with that premise 2 semesters later in a short story, and it just kind of blew up into this weird sort of non-linear, 3-tiered timeline story of artistic creation and war and the redemption of man in and out and before and after. It's just it's kind of one of those things. It's like they always tell you never have something that's really hard to explain, and I kind of broke all the rules with it because it's just like timey-wimey, fae magic, techno thriller all together.
Well, that's cool. I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with breaking the rules. So you went to school in San Francisco State. I'm assuming you're still in the Bay Area, or did you move out of there?
No, I'm floating around Northern California.
Okay.
Or somewhere in and around here and there in the Sacramento area.
You back, Todd?
Yeah, I'm back.
I don't know what that was, but all right, let's keep going. So
yeah,
you said you're floating around Northern California?
Yeah. Okay, so we have children, and including a toddler. My wife doesn't like me to spell out directions to our house or even roughly where we live. Because we live in a small town, and if I'm just hanging out and people, there's weird people out there that will go, ooh, celebrity. And so she's kind of nervous. So part of the deal is that I don't get to tell people exactly where we live.
Oh, that's cool. Northern California must be fun. I got a lot of family in the Bay Area. It seems like a really cool place to have gone to school and stuff.
At its moments.
So what are you reading now? What are the science fiction and fantasy books that you're into?
Right now I'm doing a reread of Stephen Erickson's Malazan book of the Fallen.
Okay.
Huge Stephen Erickson fan who helped to really kind of change the way I think about what is fantasy. And he had a huge, actually, reading the Malazan Book of the Fallen had a huge influence on The Shape of Deadweight and one of my other series, The Tears of Rage. I'm also going through the latest anthology from Evil Girlfriend Media, Bless Your Mechanical Heart. I have a story published in it, and I'm reading everybody else's, and I'm like, wow, how did I get into this anthology? Because everything else is so good, and mine is just kind of okay. But I'm one of my own worst critics. I think a lot of writers have that thing.
I think that's pretty common.
Some of the stories in that anthology are so amazingly good. I wouldn't be surprised to see some of them at least in the honorable mention of year's best science fiction.
That's cool. Let's talk about the Malazan stuff because I've tried to read it. I got a little bit in the first book, and it's so no idea what's going on. And I looking at Reddit and the subreddits for fantasy and stuff, it seems that's not a uncommon thing. How far into the series did you get before you really had a grasp of any idea what was happening?
Well, I started reading the Malazan Book of the Fallen series because I went to a World Science Fiction convention and I was having a conversation with Glenn Cook. I'm a huge Black Company fan. Love Glenn Cook's writing. He was telling me about this new guy, Steven Erikson, and this book, Gardens of the Moon, that made the Black Company look like a Sunday school picnic. And I was like really into dark military fantasy at that time. I was like, oh my God, I have to read this. And he had it at his table where he was selling books. And so I got it. And I dove in right away. And I think if I hadn't had Glenn Cook's stamp of approval, I might have in the first book gone, oh, what am I doing here? But because Glenn put his stamp on it, I was like, no, I'm going to power through this. By the end of the first book, I was good to go, but I'm also a huge Hemingway fan, and a lot of Hemingway doesn't get spelled out. And to me, Steven Erikson is the Hemingway of fantasy. He'll give you a bunch of stuff and just information, but he won't put any judgment calls on it. And so you gotta piece stuff together, and you've got to work for it. And that's one of the reasons I really like the Malazan series, is because it's not all spelled out, and I think it's the thinking man's fantasy series. But oh, look, the family's home.
Tell them I say hi.
Anyway, so yeah, and when I tell people the Malazan book of the Malazan,
I need 2 hands to carry it.
That's pretty funny.
So anyway, yeah, Steven Erikson, way cool. Go read him.
Yeah, no, that's the way you were describing it, though. The having to dig for stuff. I don't know if you play video games at all, but there's a series called Dark Souls and Demon Souls that's been coming out where it's the same exact thing. The players that really like it have to dig into all the items that are found and the mythology of the series and speculate on what's going on, and it's so. To just like a novice player, someone going through the game, it wouldn't make any sense at all. But to the big fans, it's the most amazing thing that's come out in years.
Yeah, I used to play a lot of video games, but then when when my writing career really started taking off, I started going, I should probably be writing right about now.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Let's see. So, do you write full time? Is that your full time gig then?
Well, I'm a stay-at-home dad, and I write full time. I'm also my day job is as a storyteller at Renaissance fairs.
Oh, that's cool.
And I've done that a lot, much like communism. On paper, it sounds really cool. Sometimes it rains. Other times they schedule your storytelling show against the joust, and even though I like to say once you've seen a big dumb guy in metal get hit with a stick, it's the same show. People seem to want to go see the joust more than the storyteller. But it has its moments. It definitely gives me the advantage of in the spring, summer, and fall having a continuous venue where I can share my books and my writing with people. As I like to say, now I don't have a storytelling show anymore. I have commercials for my books that look a lot like my storytelling show used to.
Very cool. And I'm sure you get to eat lots of roasted turkey legs at the Renaissance Fair. Should make it all worth it in my book. So we had a huge delay there for a second. You still with me, Todd?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. All right. So are you a part of any writing groups? Do you workshop your stuff? Do you have other beta readers or anything like that?
I have a few friends that I share my stuff with, but not really so much anymore. And I've had a few really kind of bad experiences with quote writers groups, so I tend to shy away. I get invitations to them every once in a while,
Yeah.
and my process now is at the point where I found most writers groups that have asked me to be part of, or have asked me to join them, are more destructive than constructive,
Mm-hmm.
and that's not something I want to be involved in. So I have a core group of beta readers, and then after that goes through my few really good friends whose opinions I trust to, and also to trust that their feedback will be constructive rather than destructive. And I go through and I get through a lot of the typos and stuff. Then I give it to my wife,
Mm-hmm.
and then she really lets me know what's working and not working. And then after that, then I send it off to my editor.
Very cool. So you use a content editor and a copy editor, I'm assuming?
Actually, my editor is I'm really lucked out, and my editor is very, very good at both roles, and
Okay.
so I only have one. And
Very
she is just. I was really lucky to find her. I went through 3 other editors before her. She
cool.
shares a vision with my work and what's going on with that. That's my vision with each project, and understanding that with each project that I do, the voice and tone shifts drastically, and she's able to give me feedback and comments and really help me flush out and draw out and really succeed in creating a different tone and different voice for each of my works.
That's very cool. Does she do writing as well, or how's she so good at that?
No, she no,
Nope.
she's
Huh?
no, her talents lie completely with just being an editor.
Cool. What do you do outside of writing? What are your hobbies?
I play a lot of airsoft, and not so much right now because all my guns are broken. But
Cool.
as soon as they're that, or as soon as they get all fixed up and everything, I'll be going back to airsoft, especially throughout the summer. I occasionally do some swing dancing. Used to be a swing dance teacher, ballroom dance teacher, and we play a lot of tabletop RPGs. Right now, we're doing a World of Darkness game. My
Okay.
wife is running. I killed all magic in the world and started the zombie apocalypse. That's how we. I did that. You're welcome.
That's pretty cool. So your wife is running that game, so it's a gaming
Yeah,
family you got going there?
yeah. Gaming family.
That's
She didn't
cool.
used to game, but yeah, because California is a community property state, she got 50% of my geek when we got married.
Yeah, I mean I've talked to my wife about trying some tabletop games, but every time she just points to like LARPing stuff and goes, "That's ridiculous. I'm not gonna do that." And I'm like, "That is not the same thing at all to tabletop RPGs." Well, that's cool. It sounds like you got a lot of cool stuff. The swing dancing, that's completely random. How did you get into that? You there, Todd?
I'm back. Yeah, okay.
I was
So,
asking how you got into swing dancing.
yeah, I started doing partner dancing because with the Renaissance thing when I was a lot younger, I also did a lot of Victorian 19th century stuff.
Yep.
And I was doing waltzes and polkas and stuff like that because at one of the events I did in the winter, they had this big ballroom area. And so I went to a party where I thought they were going to be doing some of that, and then they were doing swing dancing, and they got me in and started me doing swing, and I was 23 at the time, and I was just like, oh my god, this is the greatest thing ever. And so that took over my life for about 10 years. My entire creative outlet went into swing dancing. I taught professionally before 2014. In January 2014, I had a car accident that kind of took me out of dancing, which got me back into writing. But yeah, that was my life, dancing. So now that I'm doing better, we occasionally go back out.
Well, that's pretty cool, though.
Cut a rug now and then. That's the one thing everybody, when they see me now, they're like, "You?" I'm like, "Yeah."
Yeah, I'm not very good at dancing. I took a couple lessons for my wedding, and pretty much when we got up there for the first dance, which is the whole reason of doing it, it just went all out the window, and we just kind of moseyed around the dance floor a little bit until it was over. So what advice do you have for other writers?
Oh, don't take yourself too seriously.
Yeah,
That's the two pieces of it. If I go to people, because I go to a lot of Comic-Con, science fiction conventions, and also at fair, younger people come up to me and they ask me what advice, and I say for younger writers, people in their teens, maybe even their early 20s, I like to say, don't stress on it. Have a good time with it. Really do your best to have a good time with it. Explore your writing. Experiment with form, with style, with voice. Really use the first couple of years of being a writer to really find out what kind of writer you want to be. There's a lot of people who were really trying to focus too much on what am I going to do with my career as a writer? And they have to find out all those things while they're also doing their career, and so they don't have a chance to focus, and so they kind of are shotgunning all over the place. And for pretty much everybody, don't acknowledge writer's block. It's a lie. And that makes me really unpopular with some people because they're like, "Oh my God, no, writer's block." And I was like, "No, there are such things. There's writers lazy. There's writers fear, and in my case, for a couple of years, I had writers World of Warcraft. But there's nothing in the world that's going to keep you from sitting down and writing one more sentence."
Yeah, I agree with you there.
And if you're really going to be a professional writer, then you need to be able to, whether the muse is striking or not. For about 6 months, I did a lot of blog writing and social media content writing for Reading Rainbow. Mm-hmm. And oddly enough, they didn't care if I had writer's block. They just wanted the content. And when I was getting my degree in creative writing at San Francisco.
You there, Todd?
Yeah.
Okay, you were saying when you were getting your creative writing degree at San Francisco.
Oh, well, when I was getting my creative writing degree at San Francisco State, not a single professor there would accept I have writer's block as an excuse for a failure to turn in an assignment. And I think that's probably the best thing, even out of all the technique and everything that I got from SF State, was that, no, you just work, you do the work, you get it done, and you meet the deadline.
Yeah. Do you employ like a quota for yourself, or I mean, I'm the same way. You just sit down, you do it, it gets done. Eventually, even if it starts off rough, it's gonna get better. You just gotta warm up. But do you employ a quota for yourself when you're writing each day?
No, I just write every day. I used to write more, but then we had our daughter was born, and so that's kind of cut into my writing schedule a little bit. But as she gets older, I'm finding more and more time to be able to dive back into that and being more prolific once again. I think that a word count quota is not as important as time in the seat.
Yep.
If you can consistently get the time in the seat, you're going to be more productive over the long haul as opposed to people who like say, "Oh, I'm going to get X amount of words per day."
Yep.
So that's just how my approach to it.
Yeah, no, I agree, because when I started, I was employing a word count, but what I'd find is when I'd go back to edit, it was just a bunch of filler that I was doing, and then I was like, well, I might as well just do time. And then you start focusing on putting out quality instead of quantity. Well, cool. So where, Todd, can people find your novels?
And I think I'm back.
This is a fun one. There'll be a lot of editing involved. So, Todd,
Yeah.
where can people find your novels?
I'm on Amazon. I'm Barnes and Noble. Most of the major sellers, iTunes, Kobo, Smashwords, or my website, mtoddgallowglas.com. If somebody wants to uber nerd out and get signed copies, they can order them directly from me.
Very cool. How can people follow you?
The Facebook, Todd Gallowglas, Twitter @mgallowglass. I'm on Google Plus, I think plus +mgallowglass. And my website, of course, has links to all of that stuff. And I hang out on Reddit and chime in on the fantasy Reddit and books and writing, where I sort of poke at the literary writers because they like to slam on us genre people.
Who cares? They're so up their own ass. It doesn't matter anyways. Well, very cool. If anyone is interested in following me, my website is tjredig.com. I'm at tjredigwriter on Twitter. The podcast website is speculativesoapbox.com, and the Twitter is speculative soap because I couldn't fit it all into one Twitter name. Todd, thank you so much for being on.